was rather hoping Senator Owen would be before me. Thank you, Minister, and thank you for coming here today and taking these statements, and for Lynn for raising it and putting us in a position where we get the opportunity. I think there's no doubt out there are exceptional foster families and individuals, couples, family situations that are just fantastic. And there are lots of people who probably would like to be foster carers, and on our behalf. One of the things that, because I'm involved in IVF, surrogacy, infertility, all of those sort of groups, fostering comes up, of a discussion of alternatives along the pathway. And one of the repeated statements, and one I probably would be guilty of holding myself, will be, I could never be a foster parent, because the idea of the child not being yours would be scary. So it would suggest to me that we probably need an information campaign, and that's a repeated. I'm not alone in that, because I think, gosh, imagine loving a child and then them going back to their families. So obviously it's a very particular mindset and care and love that happens, or that you're able to do that. But we need education programs in assisting people in all of the emotional requirements, as well as the practical requirements when it comes to fostering. Because that will be a big discussion. I think that there is no doubt, we have exceptional social workers, and there are lots, and I think the recent report from EPIC had quotes in it about just how amazing social workers were, and the voice of the children, and just how incredible they were in that. However, we also have a massive turnover in social workers and a lack of consistency and stability when it comes to relationship. So a child that is already vulnerable has an advocate from TUSLA, they have their social workers, and when it works really, really well. But if that advocate is changing on a regular basis, then it reiterates that undermining of trust and relationships. And I would worry about the long-term possibility of attachment, stability of relationships in adulthood. What will flow from that if there is no modelling of consistency? So it begs the question of career pathways. What are the causes? Are some of the social workers inexperienced? Should we be doing a greater in-house apprenticeship type model? Should we be looking at how many places there are, or do we have sufficient places? Where are they being poached to, or where are they moving to? And is social work with children like that, is it a transitional on the route to a better role, or a more secure role? So I think that we need a review and of why people leave, why the big turnover in staff is, or is it just that they're overworked? Is it that there are not enough of them? And if so, then how do we ensure that, and do we need to work with Minister Simon Harris on ensuring that we have enough places in schools? And then that goes back to perhaps creating an intentional interest at post-primary level, to ensure that this is a career of choice for those who have an interest and an aptitude, because there is no doubt that we certainly need more social workers. When it comes to the process of a child becoming the subject of a care order and going into care, I have a past. Family law is not something I ever aspired to work in. I think they're incredible people that do it and have the patience for it, but in not wanting to shout, I found myself almost in that place where I wanted to shout at a parent who was really appalling. It was allegedly my client, and at that stage I decided very early on that I should never do family law. I was too opinionated in relation to my clients. But for those who do practice in it, it's an extraordinarily adversarial environment, where you have a vulnerable mother in the main, and people coming in giving opinions about them as a parent. And one of the instances that was cited to me was of a mother, of the evidence that was being brought before the court with regard to whether the child should be taken into care or not, and the subject of care order or not, was she required too much support. Unfortunately, the solicitor cross-examining had the wit to say, how much support is she provided with? You know, what's a lot? And the answer that was given was 1 hour a week. Now that seems shockingly low, absolutely shockingly low, and that anybody considered that it was a lot and that she was particularly needy seems to, they work in a sphere very different to the rest of us and in how the rest of us would think. So I canvassed for a couple of comments for this evening, and this solicitor in particular said to me, you know, there needs to be additional support. You know, none of these mothers would be in the position they are in if they had adequate support. Now, I think that's a little bit too much, because some of them probably do, and while I think we would all be of the view that the best place for a child is with their mother, at the same time sometimes mothers need breaks, and it's not always about support. But it's clearly there is a trend of a lack and inadequacy of support. And then she goes on to opinionate that if the money spent on placements and assessments was spent on supporting families, everybody would be much better off. So that maybe our balance is in making sure more than 1 hour a week. And certainly in some of the examples that I've got, the criteria of parenting being good enough seems at times to be quite harsh. There are judgments of our floor is sticky, or, you know, there are judgments that, God, if they walked into our house, you know, at times, God bless us, I'm not sure that I'd pass it. You know, so, and then comes back to this consistency and stability, you know, is the mantra of the CFA. They're always concerned with mothers are failing to provide consistency and stability. And yet we can put children into a system where they're moving from different foster families, they've different social workers, and we as a state, who have now adjudicated that these parents are maybe not in the best interest of the child, we're not providing consistency and stability. So there's a definite something there where we need to, and that strangers are caring for a child and can terminate that placement within 28 days. So I think that when we review, and clearly we are in a review phase, when we review, we've also got to review the before. What leads to that point where a child, because I mean, it's 23 years ago, gosh, it's 23 years ago when a group of us who were new people working in the City Dublin YMCA came together and had the idea of building supported social housing, so, you know, supported the foyer type project where you had accommodation and you had all the support services that were required for young people coming out of care because they were at a high risk of homelessness. Now, I find it hard to believe that 23 years on that really has changed very much, because anytime you're out with the homeless or you speak with people in this area, there is a definite pattern of having grown up in care. And 2-3 weeks ago, the 9th of November, we had, I'm sorry, I'll finish on this. I was afraid I wouldn't fill the 8 minutes, imagine. But we had Kellyanne Byrne was her name before, she was an ambassador for Focus Ireland speaking to the Children's Committee. And she was fantastic and spoke about, you know, that she has stability in her home with the help of Focus Ireland. But again, she talked about having come through care, having not had that sense of stability, not that sense of security. So there's certainly a correlation there for lifelong, and we need to focus on that. So it strikes me that we need cross-departmental groups working to make sure that maybe we reignite the idea of foyer projects and ensuring that we have those support services so that when people are coming out and look at coming out of care, that we ensure that they have all of those supports beyond those who are just in full-time education. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you.